Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Today what I'm going to do is read off a script that I wrote. Basically, I'm going to talk about Wolf Rimann. He was someone back in the early 1930s who was pretty big in Kansas City, had a lot of businesses. He was actually murdered, and we're going to talk about his case. It is a cold case that has been unsolved even though there were 15 witnesses. So I'm going to go ahead and just read what I typed because there's a lot of details to this story and I don't want to miss anything, so I'm just going to read from it. I typed it all out and I got a lot of research from different sources that were all saying the same thing. This is my perception of it, so I hope that you guys enjoy. Wolf Rimann, other known as Wolfgang C., was born on December 3rd, 1905. His family were immigrants from Germany who would wound up moving to Kansas in 1910, where they resided in Shawnee, Kansas by 1925. This is the town where Wolf met Esther Lee Cathy, his future wife. He married Esther in 1927 and had a son by 1928. Wolf was employed as a golf professional on the public course in 1930 at Shawnee. At the time that he died, he appeared to be the manager of the Hillcrest Country Club, but this was just a glimpse of what he did. Wolf also ran a company called Western Specialty Company that dived into owning a share of jukeboxes and pinball machines in Kansas City. He had several of his machines located in different businesses, but most of them were in saloons. Wolf's interest in liquor distribution peaked and he dived into the business, but was never able to fulfill it. The prohibition began in 1920, finally ending in 1933, which was a constitutional ban on producing, transporting, and selling alcohol. After the prohibition ended, organized crime had control over the distribution and selling of alcohol, especially in the Kansas City area. The Kansas City mobsters made a lot of money off of their alcoholic sales, and Wolf's interest in the business seemed to help him establish relations in the mob. Wolf was quite the businessman with an estimated of $500,000 net worth, regardless of the Great Depression, and he got his statewide liquor license. Wolf bypassed the local mobsters and went directly to New York to negotiate his business plan to become a Kansas distributor of Shanley whiskey. Joseph Scarface DiGiovanni and Vincent DiGiovanni, known members of the Kansas City crime family who were known murderers and criminals at the time, also competed for the liquor distributorship at the same time as Wolf. This ultimately would make the local mobsters, including Joseph and Vincent, lose money and business if Wolf were to gain that power. In 1943, Wolf and 12 other people were arrested for liquor violations, so Wolf chose to become a witness during the trial, which ultimately led the downfall of Charles Bingadio, who became the boss of the Kansas City crime family. Wolf was threatened numerous times and knew that his business put him at risk. At approximately 2:40 p.m. on March 24th, 1949, Wolf was shot 6 times in broad daylight by 2 men in suits. There were 15 witnesses who saw the murder and who saw both men. Both of the men looked at the witnesses and walked away. They were never caught, and justice for Wolf's cold-blooded murder was never found. The men were driving a Ford vehicle that was later tracked down 10 blocks from the crime scene. They discovered that the vehicle was bought with cash by a man who claimed to be from Denver and who had a heavy Italian accent. The man had requested that he had a temporary license plate as well. The person who bought the car was never revealed. Wolf's lawyer thinks that the liquor deal was directly related to his murder. Wolf was never able to distribute any whiskey. He believes that the mobsters killed him in order for them to keep their business. After Wolf's death, the IRS took over his estate because they found that he had dodged over $150,000 in federal income taxes during World War II, and that he was also selling things on the black market like whiskey, tires, and meat. A business colleague of Rimann disclosed days after he was killed that Rimann was receiving threatening phone calls the week leading up to his murder. Rimann, or Wolf, arranged to meet the person threatening him the morning of his murder, but they were a no-show. One can only speculate that the murder of Wolfgang is linked to the Kansas City crime family. There are many suspects of this crime, but it still remains unsolved. And anyone with information is asked to call the Kansas City Police Department's Cold Case Squad at 816-234-5136. So I found that this case was very interesting, especially because of the corruption in Kansas City. I had no idea that mobsters were such a big thing back in the 1930s and 40s. So it was really interesting to read about that. The Kansas City crime family was actually trying to take over the police department and basically get away with all of their mobster crimes. So I found it very interesting that Wolf was a part of this big mobster community in the Kansas City area, and the police was corrupt, and I find it very interesting that 15 witnesses saw the murder happen and saw both men, and no one was able to identify who the men were, and the dealership had no known traces of who bought the vehicle. I think that this case could have been solved a long time ago had somebody spoke up. I also think that a lot of people back in the 1940s when this happened were scared of the people who did it and scared of the mob, so they didn't speak up out of fear for their own lives or their families' lives. I wanted to bring light to this case because it is unsolved, and I know that Wolf wasn't the best person per se, but I also think that everybody's case deserves justice. And I know that there are still people who are related to Wolf who are alive. So if I were Wolf's family, I would want to know who murdered my family member. So I hope that this spread light on it, and I hope that it was interesting, if anything. Let me know if you like videos like this. I definitely can dive more into other cases. If you know any cold cases that aren't really talked about very often, let me know in the comments below and I will research them and do videos on them. I also want to know if you guys want me to thoroughly memorize a script and just talk to you guys based off of that script as if I'm not reading off of something, or if you guys mind me just reading off of my computer from my notes. To me, that's just a lot easier than me having to think of everything off of memory, especially with crimes that I'm not completely familiar with. But if you guys want me to not read off of something, I can definitely do that. I'm gonna go though, so thank you guys so much for watching. May all your stars align, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.